Well, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Men's Club podcast. My name is Mark Aylward, and I'm here as always with my good friend, colleague, and co-host Jim Gurley. And once again, we had a nice pregame, Jim, and we brought to the table a topic that came from some recent experiences that we've both had, actually. That It's a really good topic, and it's a really interesting topic for where we are in society today. Because my personal opinion is this: that we've lost some of this, and hopefully we can get it back. And the topic today is one of our self words, self-fortitude. And fortitude's a great word. I love that word. And you could substitute resilience. You could substitute chutzpah, or it's the ability to handle what comes your way. And I can read the definition first, Jim, or you can chime in with some
Yeah, I'll
context if
come in
you'd
on
like.
it. As you said, it's a word that can be. There are many other ways to describe this, but again, I think in life, things happen to us, and it's not what happens to us; it's how we respond to what happens to us.
Hmm.
And so this episode or this topic this morning is inspired by something that we all have to face at times, and that's difficulties or challenges. And at the moment, it doesn't feel very good. But for those that can take that bad and turn it into something good, really you could see, especially if you play that out years, sometimes decades later,
Hmm.
that things happen for us instead of to us. And there's two types of mentalities, right? There's the victim mentality, things happen to us,
Hmm.
or there's the mentality of what was the lesson? How can I be better?
Yep.
And so yeah, I've had a number of events, and even a short story after you read the definition of somebody that went through this in a lawsuit of over 15 years. And then even on a personal level, I'm in a development process for an AI platform for my industry, but I was looking at some documents um, that are very much part of this, and then realizing that some of these dates go back 5 years, 7 years, 8 years.
Hmm.
And these were ideas, these were concepts, these were things that I really wanted to come to life, but there was just not even, it wasn't even possible at that time because the
Hmm.
technology wasn't there.
Yep.
So I started to have a little gratitude or a little self-reflection about, wow, is this feels too right? This feels too good. When you get into your zone and things are just falling into place, and I really
Yeah.
think that's Amor Fati is an Italian phrase of things, the love of fate. Is it
Hmm.
fate as maybe there was a reason it didn't work when I tried it 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and that pain of failure. Nobody likes failure, but it's what you do with that pain, and do you quit? It's a mindset. It is just a way of taking on your life, and I think as you get older, you can self-reflect and see that as much more positive, negative, if you want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, hindsight's 2020, as they say, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's and it reeks of this other theme that kind of weaves its way through most of our discussions, which is, everything's a choice.
yeah.
You know, how
It
you
is.
respond to stuff is a choice. And the other thing that strikes me, Jim, before I read the definition, is it's kind of, I always like to equate things, and I know you do too, to exercise, right? It's like
Mhm. Oh yeah,
it's reps, it's
it's the
reps,
reps.
and no, I've never done a rep where I thought, oh, I can see the difference or
Hmm.
I can feel the difference. It accumulates over time when you perform those reps consistently
Hmm.
over long
Yeah.
periods of time. And when you say the word failure in the context of what you did, well, it wasn't a failure, was it? It was a necessary step in the process that now has you where you
Yeah.
are,
Well, it would have
right?
been a failure if I'd quit the
That's
project.
right. The only way it would have
And
been a failure is you quit.
that's right. And
Yeah.
and most logical people would have. I happen to feel that this was worthwhile, and it took. There's a cost to everything in life. There was some cost, right?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. And it's easy to look back. There's so many people that are successful today that if you asked them what was the reaction to the marketplace when you told people what you were
yeah,
thinking about doing, and will tell you everybody thought I was fucking crazy, you know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. People say often it's timing, not luck. I think it's a combination of prepare, to your point, doing the reps, being prepared. And so when the timing was right, you were ready. to perform. You
Yes,
didn't.
yes. It's like getting
You,
called up
you,
off the bench, you know? I mean,
it really
look at
is.
the
Yeah,
greatest quarterback of all time was called off the bench when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and
that's right.
Bledsoe never stepped back on the field again.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but Brady was ready.
That wasn't luck. That was
No, no,
an
he was
event. It
ready.
was timing, and
Yeah.
the rest is history. So,
Yeah, yeah. So let's put this in context with the definition. It's fairly lengthy, but I'll read the whole thing.
mm,
Self-fortitude is the psychological resilience and inner strength that empowers you to endure adversity, manage stress, and adapt to challenges without giving up. It's built by embracing discomfort, practicing self-compassion, and maintaining consistent habits, such as a clear focus on your core values. You can cultivate and strengthen your own fortitude using these actionable methods. Reframe adversity, viewing obstacles as learning experiences rather than personal failures. This Headspace guide on mental toughness highlights that recognizing challenges as opportunities promotes long term mental growth and managing your emotions, building an emotional regulation through mindfulness and daily breathing exercises, identifying your emotional triggers helps you stay composed and focused on your goals. Yeah, that's
mm.
almost like the practice of self fortitude, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that was the long term version and the short term, right? The long term is you have the patience to let things play out, but the short term is like you said, the daily things of
Yeah, I
meditation
think
and so on.
we said this a little bit in the pregame, but I would reiterate that I think these things are formed very young. I think that
Hmm.
when you
Yep.
first face being bullied or falling down or getting stitches or
Yeah.
getting treated poorly by a friend or being emotionally abused by a teacher or these things, it's like, well, how are you going to handle that? Because there's a lot of people floating around today that seem to think that we need to protect certain types of people from certain hardship.
Hmm.
And I call bullshit on that. I call no one gets protected from hardship. And it's
Hmm.
not a contest about who has the most hardship. The
Hmm.
contest is when the shit hits the fan, what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
Not when's the shit going to hit the fan? Is the shit going to hit the fan? It's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about as we were talking in the pregame, where did I get my decision, my choice to say I'm going to approach everything I can as a potential lesson, and I'm not going to whine about stuff, and I'm not going to be judgmental, and I'm not going to wish that these things didn't happen or wonder why they happened or whatever. That just always presented itself to me as a waste of time.
Hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, Jim, but I never.
Yeah, again, I think it's why we do a podcast every week, right? We have obviously common values and we have a similar mindset. So what's on the screen at the moment, if you read those two, and start off with the first one, or I should say the second one about this victim mindset, and then what we're talking about is the second one. I think this again kind of sets the stage. So if you yeah,
Yeah,
scroll.
it's the first kind of pillar of this discussion is back to what you said, this
Yeah.
Amor Fati, which I guess is Latin/Italian. It's a mindset that, and what it does is it splits the world into two types of people, right? It's
Mhm.
like people where that things happen to, and people that things happen for.
Yeah, go ahead and read that, and then we'll
I
go from
will.
there on both
I
of them. Yeah.
will.
Okay.
So it happens to us, the victim mindset. This view fosters resentment, blame, and helplessness. You
Hmm.
look at a negative event as an unfair personal attack from the universe. And the opposite of that happens for us type person, the Amor Fati mindset. This view creates agency. You treat the event as a custom made challenge designed to teach you something, build your character, or redirect your path. It's
Yeah.
good stuff, man. It's good
It really
stuff.
is. Like I said, I think it simplifies the two concepts, but also the two mindsets. Choose who you want to be. And to your point, if nobody's ever exposed this to you, or you grew up in a maybe I don't know a family or an environment where everybody was a victim, then guess what? You'll go on and become a victim.
Well,
But
an
that's one thing great
interesting
about
thing.
humans. You can always change
Yeah.
the way you view things.
I was talking to my girlfriend about a similar topic recently, and we were talking about the concept of breaking the chain, right? You and I talked about it a little bit in terms of families, and you're gonna this whatever is going to be inflicted upon you as you grow up is going to be inflicted upon you. Your parents, your environment, the town you grew up in, the culture, the religion, all that stuff. It's going to factor in, but I have four kids in my family, and two of those children took the insecurity, let's say, of my mother and let it impact their lives. And two of them decided, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to seek what was the good stuff that my mom gave me, and I'm going to max that out, and I'm going to try and avoid some of the stuff that I would consider less favorable. Those are just choices. You can break the chain anytime, whatever the chain is. But it's not easy to break the chain because the chain is part of your character. And when you become a young adult or a man or whatever, you have that question is posed to you by the universe: is, are you going to break this chain? Or are you just going to ride this wave?
Yeah,
Even if it's not a good wave. And
yeah,
that's another area where you got a choice to make.
yeah. Well, that's it's very relevant to the story I shared with you in the beginning. I have a very, very good friend. We grew up together. It's back to this mindset, this
Hmm.
mentality. So we grew up in Hayward together, and when I started the my high school football alumni, he was, and there's a handful of us, but the core group was him, and he at that time owned a very successful tenant improvement construction company in San Francisco. He did work for Wells Fargo and Apple and all, so very, very successful in his own right there. Worked like me, was a carpenter, worked his way up to become owner of this. So he was doing quite well. And then my other friend Andy, which was an attorney, and then of course at the time Jack, which was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, and then Don, which was the manager of the Seattle Mariners, because we all went to high school together and we all played football together. So we had this mindset, this mentality. And so
Hmm.
when this he was did a business deal, I'll do the short version of it, but he did a partnership with a new company, and they bought a building, and he wrote a check, I think, for $1 million or something to start this business. Well, things didn't go so well, so they dissolved the business, and he said, "Okay, give me my money back." And the partners said, "No, that's ours now." And so for the next 15 years, he goes on this um, legal battle. So it's something I know you can relate to. So I thought of you. And then after just a series of unthinkable events and appeals and judges that retired and different attorneys, he finally it gets appealed. So he goes to the district appeals court. And after 15 years, they rule in his favor, and he's awarded what he deserves, which is now is well over $2 million. The point is, he was relentless. He just would not stop. Any logical, normal human being would have said, would have conceived, would have given up. But
Hmm.
his fortitude was just remarkable. That he
Yeah.
became his
Yeah.
own attorney. I shouldn't say his own attorney. He had the same attorney, but he became almost a paralegal for the attorney. He
Hmm.
just be he's a smart guy to begin with, but he was so diligent that ultimately, after 15 years and all the appeals, he gets awarded this amount of money. So I just and then that's right, because we had dinner and he said something about yeah, it was a football term, because in our football coaches, if you were practicing and the reps weren't going good, the football coach would say run, and you'd have to run to the ivy, which was like 4 football fields away. So the whole
Hmm.
team would have to run to the ivy when
Hmm.
things got difficult, and that was his term, was run to the ivy.
Interesting.
And it was just a mindset that he developed when he was playing football.
You
Another
know,
one that I've referred to too was what helped me so much in my rugby career. It was this mindset of at the time, he was, again, he turned out to be an All-American in college, and then went on to play the NFL. But he was the captain of the team, of course, and he says nobody runs on Hayward, and it was
hmm
just a term that was a defensive term speaking to us, but that was a mentality. Nobody
Yep.
runs on us. It was a
Yep.
defensive term. Of course, we went on to have 100 rushing yards for the season in league, and then losing the playoffs with by the pass. The point is, I developed this mentality, this
Hmm.
mindset of this is just what the way it's going to be, and you don't give up.
Yeah.
So
Well, when you look back on life, which is the hindsight 2020 thing, but when you do endure,
or
when you,
self-reflection. I
yeah,
think hindsight
yeah,
2020 is a little different. I think in the context of what we're talking, it's
fair
when you
enough. Yeah,
self-reflect. Yeah.
fair enough. I think the times when I mean, sometimes you have to give up because you're in
Yeah.
danger or you're out
Right.
of resources or,
Yep.
there are circumstances where
No question.
the common sense move is, okay, this, I'm going to stop this right
That's right.
now.
That's the logical decision.
But when you look back on your life, when I look back on mine and I think of the times where I stuck with stuff, and very, very proud moments. And I'm not a big fan of pride. I do believe it's one of the seven deadly sins, but every once in a while, it's okay to feel proud of something that you've accomplished, not
Yeah.
that you've inherited, not that's been given to you,
Yeah.
that you've accomplished. And most of the time, in my experience, part of the accomplishment is enduring, is bringing
Hmm.
fortitude to the day to day stuff when no one else is looking. Like
Hmm.
the most successful business people I know and the most successful athletes I know, they just don't stop, right?
Hmm.
They're consistently showing up ready and prepared every day over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I think this fortitude thing is missing in our culture today. I think we spend way too much time acknowledging the quote unquote victims of certain circumstances. And I
Hmm.
don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a color thing or a gender thing or a religious thing or a cultural thing or a geographic thing. Doesn't matter. It just
Hmm.
doesn't matter. If you want to play victim, you're going to have a relatively miserable life. And if you want to play, the non-victim, you're going to have a better life. It's going to be
Yeah.
more fun. You're going to accomplish more stuff. And so
Yeah.
you've broken it down here into three
Yeah.
distinct
Yeah.
pillars. You want me to?
Let me I thought of another quote that
Sure.
I often think of, and is I would rather die trying um, than lose by quitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a mentality. You have to ask yourself, I would rather not have the regret of not trying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but live with the regret was far greater than the death of not
Yeah, this
letting
kind of
that project
stuff.
go. It's
I think when you give up, when you don't, when you shouldn't, when you're not, there's no danger. You still have some resources. There's no logical reason.
yeah,
You weaken I never look back on any of those circumstances with
yeah.
any pride.
Yeah, if you don't care, to your point, if you don't care, it is time to let go and move on to something else and take those
mm-hmm.
resources. But if
Yep.
you have conviction and you really believe in something and you know it could happen, then it is a decision. And
Mm-hmm.
I made that decision. I would rather die trying than live not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the four pillars that you've identified here in your Google search are, the first one's endurance,
Mhm.
also referred to as grit. And they
Mhm.
call that the stamina to maintain focus and effort over long periods, especially when the initial enthusiasm has worn off and the reality of the struggle sets in. There's two guys I know of that come to mind. One,
Mhm.
and they're relatively famous names in many circles. One is Wim Hof, the
Mhm.
breathwork guy with like 17 world records. He's climbed Kilimanjaro in a pair of shorts. He's run a marathon on the desert with no water. And then David Goggins, who's much more well known as a endurance guy from Navy SEAL background, and both these guys overcome what other people would consider limitations. Like, you can't do that. You want to see? Yes, I can. You want to
Yeah.
see? And their success in life has come from saying, I'm going to take these limits that other people are putting on this thing, whether it's breath work or holding your breath underwater or jumping into an ice pool or running up a mountain, whatever it is. Both of these guys have proven that we have way more capacity, at least physically and mentally, than most people would think.
Mhm.
So, and that comes into play when you're in this endurance, victimhood, fortitude game is, is my tank got any gas left in it? And you've been an athlete your whole life. You can probably think of many instances when you thought you were out of gas and then you found another gear, you know.
Yeah, no question the grit. Again, I've done this talk a number of times, especially to the high school kids that I mentor and that I'm around, is that, to win a championship, it takes there's some components to it. Number one, what goes first typically when you're exhausted or it's the end of the game it's your fitness, right? Your body, you get tired,
Hmm.
so you get fatigued. That's the first thing that goes is your body. And then the next thing that go when it's on the line and you're gonna it's the this is between first place and second place is your mind.
Hmm.
And once that goes, you just stop thinking. You're not you lose your your judgment. Your decisions get affected. But so to win a championship, there's only one thing left, and that's your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to go to your heart, and the heart was programmed. It was something way deeper than your mind and your body, and
Hmm.
that is the
Hmm.
difference between a championship. And I know because I've had uh, high school football championships and league and that, but the national championships I had in rugby was to just what this is. There's a level of grit when you got to make a decision, and the guys around you especially also have to have that same mentality.
Yeah, it has to be a team effort. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
especially in team sports. The next one, the next pillar is self-reliance, and I think that I'm a fan of this. I brag about my older brother having this gift, and that's the an independence from external validation. Individuals with self-fortitude don't need applause to keep moving forward, nor are they easily derailed by criticism.
Mm,
I think this is directly tied into the victimhood thing, Jim.
mm,
It's just like, why would you give a shit about what someone who you don't even know says or thinks about you? And this ability to ignore criticism, this ability to understand that most of the time, the people that will criticize you are the people that are not, they're not above you, they're below you. The
mhm.
people that are above you encourage you, and the people that are
Yeah,
below you criticize you. So I think this
yeah, yeah.
independence from external validation, I love that phrase.
That's a good one though. Again, self-reliance and criticism. It's again another. I'm just having all these thoughts because if I'm doing a talk or I'm trying to inspire, especially a young man at the high school level or even beyond that, I would say, um, you see, life is really just a game. It's a game. Life is a game. What sports teach you, particularly in this case, football, is that you only have so much time. You only have so much space, which is a football field, 100 yards long with 20-yard line, 30-yard, whatever it is. Um, and then you have your teammates, a scoreboard,
Mhm.
and you're going to be judged based on you're going to be criticized because the people in the stands, those are the ones yelling out, "Oh, you dropped the ball." They're going to be criticizing you. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to make fun of you. They're in the stands
Hmm. For a reason.
for a reason. So, like you said, that, don't take criticism from somebody that doesn't have the courage themselves to get out and fail in front of everybody, and
This,
especially in the high school situation because there's the other kids
yeah,
that are in the stands
yeah,
criticizing the players for losing the game and all these things. And then also, often you learn more when you lose than when you win
sure.
because
If you allow yourself to,
yeah,
if
and
you
it
if you
speaks
leave
to this.
space for that, one of my favorite phrases again is and I can't remember where I got this. Could have been from you. Never take criticism from someone from
Yeah,
whom you would not seek
that's
advice.
that's a great line. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, this
yeah.
this criticism in relationship to self-reliance, that's a good one. Yeah.
Well, the next pillar is emotional regulation, and I was thinking of a very specific event. I've got three kids, as you well know. They're all grown up now, but when I was raising them by myself for the most part. So I was mom and dad. So I was there when certain injuries took place, and I remember I've always had the ability in the face of drama or challenge, or in this case your child getting severely injured, like a broken bone sticking through their arm or stitches in their face with blood gushing down because they hit their head on the pool. I get quiet. I get very calm.
Hmm.
It's the opposite of what you would expect someone to do, and I don't do it. I didn't get any training for it. I've been this way my whole life. And like, I remember my middle daughter, Hannah, falling down, and she had recently broken her arm already, and she fell down on a pair of rollerblades. She was probably 10 or 12 years old. And my wife at the time was upstairs getting ready with a girlfriend to go to this ball. And I remember Hannah fell down. She wasn't moving fast. She just fell down, and she put her hand out and her arm broke, and the bone was sticking out of her forearm. And she looked up at me with no emotion at all and said, "Ah, Dad, I did it again." That was it. right? And I looked at her and I'm like, how are you not screaming right now? It was I was thinking about it in my head. But I went calm and I made a decision at the moment. Should I say anything or should I just throw her in the car and take her to the doctor?
Mhm.
And because of who I was, I thought I can't just leave and have my wife and the mother of my child wonder where did they go, right? So I made the mistake of bringing her into the situation and she lost her shit, right? So I think this emotional regulation is a huge part of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And stress is what challenge is, fear is what challenge is, frustration. If you can't do that thing that we talk about called pause, if you can't stop yourself and go, this is an emotional thing, I'm feeling the emotion, but I'm not going to let the emotion take over. That's a huge part of fortitude. And I don't think we give that part as much credit as maybe we should.
Yeah. Well, this actually speaks to our episode last week too, right? About a lot of our of who we are. Our mind is developed in our childhood, and it has a lot to do with our mother. And so, to again, in respect to what you're saying, if if your parent or your or whoever it is, that you're around when you're a child responds to things very emotionally, that will most likely become your demeanor, your
Mm-hmm.
personality, how you react to
Mm-hmm.
things. So
Mm-hmm.
you gave your daughter, quite the gift at that very moment because she got to see how you reacted in that. And so I was aware of this also with my children, that y- how you respond to certain circumstances, whatever it is, not even if it's an injury, but just life in general has a
Mm-hmm.
lot to do with how they're going to respond to life when they get older. And and you can't get those years back once once they're gone. They're gone. You could try to, but in general, they've developed their yeah, the responsive system, exactly what this is, the
My
emotional response system.
I teach the pause in my work, and I get it from my dad, who's he learned it as a fighter pilot, and I've told you before, what do you do when a engine catches on fire? And his response is nothing.
Mhm.
Which, and what he means by that is you have all this training, you're a
Mhm.
professional, you're a fighter pilot, you're one of the best of the best. Just let your emotions subside for a moment and let all that training pour back in with
Yep.
objectivity. And I tell people all the time, if you can develop the skill when a negative emotion is becoming in your space, if you can develop a skill of just saying, my first response is to just take a breath, is to pause before you walk into a room, before you pick up the phone, before you hit send on an email, whatever, that's life changing,
Yeah.
right? And if you let yourself do that, your fortitude will increase monumentally,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, just a simple pause
mhm.
to think about it before you react could have a huge impact on the outcome and also the people around you.
It's a really cool practice to start working on right now, no matter what. It's really worked well for me. The
Mhm.
last pillar is referred to as internal locus of control. Locus, I like that word too. The deep-seated belief that you are responsible for your own life and reactions. People with high self-fortitude don't view themselves as victims of circumstance. They focus their energy entirely on what they can control. And then again, I
Mhm.
would add, Jim, to your point, what they can learn. This is either a learning opportunity for me or it's an unfair thing that happened to me because, oh, woe is me. And man, I would conclude from my end by just saying to remind everybody that the beauty of this is it's all a choice, and both of those choices are available to all of us, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Wow. Like I said, that one was good. These were really good today, but yeah, it just keeps going back to it's self-control. You can put a hyphen in front of every one of these words. At the end of the day, it is self-control, self-discipline, um, and you have a choice how you're going to respond to these things. It's just taking the time to prepare for it before these events happen. It's not something you can start thinking about when it happens. You train your mind you to prepare for those moments because things are going to happen. That's just part of
well, I
life.
mean, I totally agree. I mean, you could walk away from listening to this and say none of that resonated with me, and that's fine. I mean, not all of what we do resonates with everybody, and that's not why we're doing it. But if you
Mhm.
could say, I recognize that everything in my life is a choice, and I'm going to start trying to, your point, prepare myself for the next time something challenging happens. And I'm going to try and remind myself between now and then, I got the pause, I got my choices, I have control over these things. It's up to me. Do I want to be the victim or do I want to be the guy who learns from this experience? That's a mindset, as you've said quite a few times, Jim, and you can literally start practicing it right now if it resonates with you. And it's not complex. It's just difficult, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's good way to wrap this up, and it goes back to what we talked about in the very beginning, and that is that this Amor Fati. It's again, you could look at it as things happen for you, or you can have things happen um, to you. But it is a decision, and it is a way of living. And if you're never exposed to it, or you never think about it, um, you have your default as your child, whatever that may
Yep.
be.
Yep.
And so I think
Yep.
it's something that's helped me a lot because if you don't take the time to think about these things, then the same problem just continues to repeat itself and repeat
Well,
itself.
yeah, and the other thing, is that people that take responsibility for their own actions and don't blame the rest of
Yeah.
the world are just much more fun to be around.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So,
All right, dude.
all right. Sounds
Till
good.
next week.
Till
See
next
you.
week.